So next up we have Mary McLellan. And Mary, you're welcome to resume showing us the video. There it goes. Absolutely great. Take it away, Mary.
Yep, we're up and running, and my videos are embedded in the PowerPoint, so I'm hoping then that they'll show. I don't know if there will be a link issue or whatever, so hopefully we'll get a better reception on that. So the first thing I wanted to do is talk to you about how I put the videos in my classroom and my content and my teaching. And I first wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about myself. I am an AP statistics, so I'm a high school teacher, and I'm teaching at a university. And I love doing that. I do have a math degree, but I also have a piano degree, so that's kind of where some of the music stuff comes into play. And I started making these songs about 5 years ago to help my students remember, which all the other panelists have talked about that, so that they could remember the definitions and phrases and processes and all those kinds of things. I remember hearing my students say, man, I wish there was a way to remember that. And at that point, I thought, oh my gosh, I have a music degree. If anybody can do that, I should be able to figure that out. So that's when I kind of started thinking through doing that. And that's how it all got started. So the goal was to, of course, help the kids recall that factual information really quickly. Because if I can get them to recall the factual information first and foremost, then I can get to the more enriching discussions and the more in-depth concepts quicker because they have that baseline immediately. So my first word of advice that I have found helpful with my students is that I wanted my songs to be quick and catchy. And when I say quick, I mean the songs are really only about 30 seconds to 1.5 minutes long, and they have the corresponding video. So these are something that the kids can pull up quickly. I, in class, will sing a little blip of it so that it can remind them of the formula or whatever the phrase is that they're having to remember. So when I do my songs or my videos, I try to just use 1 to 2 verses. Some of them I don't even use a verse. I just include the choruses because it's just going to be that short for quick reinforcement. And so I wanted to show, we'll see here if this video works. So this is the first video. This is a demonstration, and again, I'm AP statistics. So my students just could not remember that the letter R represents correlation coefficient as opposed to R squared being the coefficient of determination. So that was just something real simple that would bog them down in their tests and their assessments because they couldn't remember what variable stood for what. So here came this little situation here. And I have some students here. We're all kind of dancing to it.
Correlation coefficient represented by the R. Correlation coefficient, the variable that you use to represent it is R.
And then it repeats. So, and then it just repeats that. So that was the chorus, and then it repeats that. When the kids will come and say, well, wait, which one is it? Then I'll say, the variable that you use to represent it is the R. So I'll just sing that right back to them right in the middle of class whenever they ask me a question, and because it'll just come right there back to them. So there's the first example. Now, when I do these with my videos, as you can see, they are done to match up with the topic. So this one is pointing to a computer or a calculator printout that our students would see and where they would see that and all that kind of stuff. So it shows them that. Also, the video goes through and it shows them the scale that we use to represent that correlation coefficient. And these, of course, pictures I would talk to them about when I introduce the song. So use that in the video to reinforce the song. All right. The next thing that my advice would be to make this these songs beneficial to your students is to make it catchy. And of course, I know that with the parodies and all of these songs, I think that's one goal to do with that. I like to use songs that the kids already know and love. I really actually like to make it classics because if I do that, then maybe these are going to last for many, many years and not just be a, for these 5 years because it's just a song that the kids from this time period know. So I would try to do that. Also, having, maybe current rock or country hits. I've used some Taylor Swift. I haven't really gotten into the country. You can do some quick and catchy songs. I've used Happy, All About that Bass. So some of those ones that kind of come out and people start making parodies on and starting to see everywhere across social media and such, I might pull those in. Oh, Christmas carols. In fact, I've used several Christmas carols and most everybody can catch onto those really quickly. But I have researched the top 100 list or the top 40 list to try and find a song that matches the topic that I'm using. And so here's another example that I wanted to show you. This is a video that the kids will see, and it goes to the 80s tune, Hey Mickey. And it's because my students would have trouble understanding the difference between cluster sampling and stratified sampling in grouping when we would do experimentation. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to also talk to you about, you'll see the pictures that correspond with what the kids see. I know Rick Heinemann in the earlier in an earlier panel talked about using annotations. So when I use these pictures, it's kind of similar to point out certain things that the song is talking about. So here goes this song.
Hey, cluster, you're a group. I will sample all of you. Hey, cluster. Hey, cluster. Hey, cluster, you're a group. I will sample all of you. Hey, cluster.
So when I teach this to the kids, before they just get the whole song, I break it apart because we've talked about the definitions and such, and I'll talk to them about how these pictures, what they represent, how they are like a little mini population, and we're going to sample all of them. So as I present the data, I'm teaching them with these songs and their pictures.
Hey, cluster. Hey, cluster, you're a group. I'll take all from some of you. Hey, cluster. Hey, cluster. Hey, cluster, you're a group. I'll take all from some of you. Hey, cluster. Stratify, stratify, homogeneous. Every single group is homogeneous.
And so that was a picture of, our homogeneous groups. So we've obviously got those now, such that these samples are all homogeneous. They're all bowls full of just one color, and the kids see that and they see that video. Also, the tune is going with that stratify, stratify, homogeneous. So they make that connection to that, and I hear them singing it.
It's homogeneous. Stratify, stratify, homogeneous. I get all kinds cause I get you and some of all of you.
So using those videos for that teaching, but I wanted to kind of talk to you about how I start developing that. I think one of the things I mentioned that I would talk about is how I decide to do that. And besides coming up with something that, a topic that they have trouble with, then I'll have phrases or things that I'm naturally saying every day when I'm teaching. Sometimes you say the same phrase over and over. I know in our AP statistics class, there's certain topics and certain concepts that the students need to know. And having a particular phrase that I use over and over again will help them remember it, and they'll remember that through hearing it with the song. Now, I have had a situation, where I'll go online. If I need to find something that rhymes with something else, then I can go online to find something that rhymes. And, but I'll tell you one thing that I've found most useful that I think helps the kids remember the songs is If the song that is used to for the lyrics also happens to rhyme with what I'm trying to get them to remember. For example, if I wanted to teach them about the probability of at least one, okay? And so this was actually, I remember last year, I said I want to teach them something about the probability of at least one and how we do that and what it means and all this. So I literally Googled what songs have lyrics that rhyme with one. And looking through a couple of those, the one that came up with was, all I wanna do is have some fun. So that goes with probability of at least one. And so having that connection also made those fit naturally together. Here's another example. The kids know this song by the group Fun. Tonight we are young. And that goes with the lyrics of something that the students have to do. It's an AP phrase that they could be asked. Describe the distribution. So that goes naturally with how they hear that song. Also, the song continues, set the world on fire. And my lyrics go, shape and outlier. So those kind of jive. And I think that just reinforces to the kids to remember those items. Good vibration, naturally good, 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 good vibrations. Goes with blocking, reduces variation. And then staying alive. Staying alive goes with a topic that they need to know, randomize to reduce bias, reduce bias. And so I have that little video here to show you just a little snippet of it. And so one of the things I wanted to tell you or give you a thought process to do is to have AP, or in my class, the AP language that the kids will hear over and over. The kind of idea we want the kids, or if the AP language wants the kids to know to, when you need to spread unknown traits evenly, randomize, randomize. So then that's what I have in the song so that they can recall those phrases. So here's an example for that.
Okay. Yeah, Tuesday, yeah, that's true.
Well, you can tell by the way that I design my experiment. I use my mind. Treatment A and treatment B. Experiment is what you see because subjects, they go in. I big bang, I shake them well. Subjects, they go in. I big bang, I shake them well. When you need to spread unknown traits evenly, randomize, randomize. When you need to spread unknown traits evenly, randomize, randomize. Randomize to reduce bias, reduce bias. Randomize to reduce bias.
But I told him very clearly, I'm not coming to the.
Okay, so so that one uses some of the phrases that the kids will see, and then it helps them do that. Now, I wanted to kind of go through a couple of quick things. I just really feel strongly that having the short, quick songs is important to be able to incorporate these into your lessons every day. I mean, I introduced 2 songs to my students yesterday in a topic that I was doing. And then today we were singing the formula earlier in class. So I want to be able to use these songs throughout the year in all of the topics. Now, you know, you're not going to be able to start with a whole full set of 45 songs. So you might want to make a goal just to get started. I started 5 years ago. I might have had 5 or 10 songs at the end of that year. And then when the next year came around, I started making more. And then last year I had made it a goal to make the videos of them all so that the kids had the visual cues along with the songs. So I was going to show you that. If you subscribe to my playlists at Mary Mac on YouTube, then I'll show you what that looks like. Then it's, you know, I have them grouped for my students by units. So they can go through and there's, you know, anywhere from 4 to 12 songs for each of the 6 main units that I incorporate. And so then the kids have that reference as well for them to go and learn those. Let's see here. So also I found that I was afraid the kids wouldn't have the data to support watching the videos all the time, so I had decided to put just the songs on Google SoundCloud. And so if you go out to the Google SoundCloud, and I had put those on and made playlists for those. And so then the kids don't have to watch the videos, but they can go through and listen to them and play each one of the ones in those particular units. So that as well. All right. Now, one quick thing before I bring some of my students into this presentation and tell you what they have to say about the songs in class is I wanted to just give you a quick blip of how I make the videos and what process I go through. So I first take the karaoke version of the song. I get that on iTunes. So I then will import it into the free software Audacity. And from that, I can then cut the sound tracks to the correct length. Because again, 30 seconds to a minute and a half is really the best for just quick, using it every day type references. And then you can add your vocal track and then you export it. Once you export that sound, then I made my videos using iMovies. I just am not an expert on what to use. So that was one thing I had found, that I could easily find pictures that were meaningful to my topic. And then I could add the text and line up the text with those lyrics. So once I did that, then I uploaded it to the YouTube and then, of course, to Google SoundCloud. So that's the process that I went through. And, you know, again, I have almost 50 songs to go with my materials. And so it takes a while to get all of those going. I know, you know, the annotation is features probably a lot easier. But anyway, it ending up having a visual with the sound is good as well. All right, so now I would like to bring on some of my students and let you know some of the things that they say. I asked them, and here's what they say. The first person who's going to say a couple of things is Madison Weeks. So here comes Madison.
So hi, I'm Madison. So the key phrases in the songs are easy to remember and triggers exact wording and definitions found on the quizzes, tests, and the AP exam. So I took the AP exam this past year, and one of the FRQ questions happened to be interpreting the slope. So instead of getting like overwhelmed and in the pressure of the moment, like what do I write down, I was just thinking about one of the songs that Miss McLellan made, which was Interpreting the Slope, and it's to the tune of the Addams Family. And so it's interpret the slope, interpret the slope. For everyone, increase in the X, the predicted Y, it does this. So whenever I was on the question, I read it and it just, the tune hit my head right then and there, and I could just easily write down what I needed to do. Perfect wording, didn't have to think about it or take up time trying to recall the specific words. I just quick and easy and got to move on to the rest of the test, and that was really good. So the songs are also used continuously throughout the curriculum, and little blips of the songs are sung by the teacher while in the context of working through problems. So whenever we would go over homework or tests or quizzes or anything, for instance, if the p-value was brought up, Miss McLellan wouldn't just be like, oh, the p-value is blah, blah, blah. She would go through the song and repeat it with the tune and be like, the p-value is the probability of getting this sample or something more extreme if the null is true. So just stuff like that was really cool, and it just got that tune and the phrases in our heads, so that way whenever we saw that on a test or anything, it would just automatically trigger it, and it helped us a lot. Saves a lot of time, gets those good points, good questions. Okay, so
next is going to be Mary Catherine Gomez. She was another one of my students from last year. Just press that.
Okay, all right. So hi, the songs helped make distinctions and definitions of really easily mixed up words. and concepts. Like we had type 1 error and type 2 error. And whenever you're really stressed, they seem pretty much like the same thing in your head. So she came up with songs to separate each of them. So for example, she had a song for type 1 error, and it was type 1 error. If the null is really true and you get a sample that causes you to reject the null, that's a type 1 error. And so it really helped us remember during the test, like exactly what a type 1 error was. And so it eliminated that, like that initial panic that you would have of, oh, is this a type 1 error or a type 2 error? And which one do I reject? And so that was really nice. And then she also had the correlation coefficient, which I know she mentioned earlier, correlation coefficient and coefficient of determination. And she actually came up with that song last year when I was in her class. And so she saw that we were still struggling on that concept, and she made up the song for that, which really helped just distinguish between something as simple as saying R and R squared. So that was really nice. And then, okay, the songs provided a really unique learning presentation that was completely different from other classes. Like, I don't think I've ever been in a class where they had songs for the concepts. And so it really kept us engaged, and it was different. It mixed it up, like even during the class, because we do our notes and we do homework, and then like sometimes there was a song thrown in, and so it was different, and it made you think, and it kept, even if you, like, I know I loved the songs, but there was one or two who didn't, but like even if you didn't like it, you still were engaged, and it was great. And so you learned, like, it was really awesome. And it was a mental break that we could refresh and then instantly get back into learning because it was still relevant. And I know that the songs, like even if sometimes I didn't know what the song was, I still, like, I learned the stat song. Like there was one or two that I had just never heard of the originals, but when I learned them, when I learned the stat songs, it still really helped me remember. So
thank you. All right, and then we have one last student, Marilyn Pillow, and here is Marilyn.
Hi. Is it this?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. So I think one of the really cool things about the songs is that math is a repetitive subject anyway. You can only really learn if you're doing it through repetition and practice, but sometimes that can be mundane and enforceable and just drudgery, especially if you're taking other classes. But with the songs, you had the repetition, but you also had it in a creative way. And so the repetition didn't become mundane, it became exciting. And if you're just driving in your car listening to the radio and you heard a song that Miss McLellan had transformed into a stat song, you would be thinking about stat anyway. And so even throughout your everyday life, I think even that repetition was enough to like help me study for the AP test so that I felt prepared, even if I wasn't trying to, which was really cool. And also the fact that she used visual aids as well as music, and she mentioned that earlier, but I think because not all students are auditory learners, they could see those videos and while they were listening, and so if they couldn't quite remember the song or if they got mixed up, they could still have those diagrams or the pictures or the memes that she put there, which was really great. Also, just the songs and learning those definitions really helped set a baseline for that foundation that we would need to go into deeper concepts of statistics so that we didn't stay on the surface level. We could perform our experiments because we knew how to design an experiment because of our songs, and we could analyze actual and real data because we knew what a p-value was, and we didn't have to focus on definitions. We could really use real life concepts, and I think that just made the whole class more applicable.
Thank you. Great job. Okay, thanks to my students. And I wanted to show you just one last thing. And so right before the AP test, then, you know, we need to have a little bit of fun. We don't want to be stressed. It's what can you do at the last minute? So we have karaoke day, and I brought our machine from my son's. I took my son's machine. It's got a laser light show going. We got the a microphone going. And so here is a little video of a couple of my students having fun with the karaoke day. All right, so that was great. We had fun with that. So I can figure out how to look at the questions here. Then I will try to pull that up. Let's see here. See if you guys had any questions. Let me see what I can come up with on that. Yeah, it says I had some very well-spoken students. Yeah, they did great. Thanks so much to them. Actually, and then you know what? Let me put back up my contact information. Let's see here. So there is the contact info that you can see. You can follow me on. Let's see. How would you come about making a song other than a parody? Okay, so then I would have to come up with my own tune. And, you know, I could maybe do that, but I think one of the things that makes things memorable for the students is it's something that they already have heard and that they already know. And then they hear it all the time on the radio or whatever. So I think that it works better with songs that the kids already know. All right, let's see. Yeah, for some songs such as Staying Alive, my students may not know them, but they can still appreciate them. But gosh, you know, you'd be surprised. They've heard a lot of those classics. And so I've tried to pick ones that they have known. Let's see, about how long does it take for you to produce a video start to finish? Well, actually not too long. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I came up with a mnemonic device during first period, and then before the pep rally, which was a 70s day theme on the pep rally, I kind of sat down and jotted down some lyrics, and by third period, we practiced it with my students, and then that afternoon, I did the Audacity cut, and I did the video probably in about an hour's time Sunday night, and I had that ready to go for them the next Monday. And that made such a big difference for my students this year. They really got experimental design a lot better because of that mnemonic device and video. Let's see. I asked that because my professor is giving us assignments where we're making videos, beats, and our own songs. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what to tell you about making your own song except for short and catchy, you know, repetitive. A lot of the popular songs are so popular because they're catchy and repetitive. So don't go into this long, drawn out set of information. All
Mary,
right.
thank you so much. We need
Yes.
to, and thank you as well to your students. That was great fun to hear from them. We need to move on to Sarah now.